There are two things that are really interesting within the new NBC polls that just came out in Wisconsin and Iowa today. In Wisconsin, the overall top line of the poll was that President Obama is leading by 6 points. In Iowa, the overall top line was that President Obama is leading by 8 points. But there's two things within this poll that I'm not sure have gotten any attention yet, but that are very important for the overall state of the race. The first is the gender gap, and the second is what's happening with the early vote. This is fascinating. This is from today's NBC polling. Now, the Republicans were very excited when Mitt Romney took his jump in the polls after the first debate, you'll remember. One of the things inside those polls that they were very excited about was the fact that they had erased the gender gap, the gap by which women were preferring Obama over Romney. And it had been a gap that was in the high teens for a long part of the early part of the race. When Mr. Romney took his jump in the polls, that gender gap went away. Well, in Wisconsin and Iowa, with the new NBC poll out today, the gender gap is back, and with a vengeance. Mr. Romney is losing women to President Obama in both Wisconsin and Iowa by 18 points. Now, Mr. Romney is winning men in both of those states, losing women, but winning men. But his win with men is not by anywhere near as large a margin as he is losing women. He's losing women really badly, and that basically tells you why he is losing those two states. Strategically, though, here's another really interesting finding in these polls today. One of the polls that came out last week that really upset the Republicans was a Reuters poll that showed the people who were voting early in this election were voting for President Obama by a huge margin. The Romney campaign's polling guy just lit his hair on fire and stamped his feet and tried to tell everybody that that poll of early voters was nonsense. They put out a formal memo that they released on the subject saying there's no chance that those numbers among early voters were real numbers. Well, it looks like those numbers were real numbers. Check this out. This is Iowa. The NBC News Marist poll asked people if they had voted already. And look at this. This is incredible. More than a third of people in Iowa who say they are likely to vote in this election at all, more than a third of them have already voted. It's already over for more than a third of the voting population. 34% of people have already voted. That is a huge proportion in Iowa. And of those people who have already voted, this is how they voted. A 35-point margin in favor of President Obama. So that's Iowa. That is the payoff of Democrats stressing early voting so much. And now you know why Republican state officials have been trying so hard to get rid of early voting everywhere they can. The other state where we got data on early voting today was Wisconsin. Now, in Wisconsin, here are the voter preferences of early voters in that state, right? Look at it in Wisconsin. The proportion is almost exactly the same. Among people who are early voting in Wisconsin, President Obama has a 29-point lead, a hugely disproportionate split for President Obama among people who are voting early. The difference, though, is that while in Iowa, more than a third of the electorate have already early voted, in Wisconsin, only 6% of the electorate have early voted. They're voting for Obama by a huge margin, but there just aren't very many of them. And so President Obama is winning by a lot more in Iowa than he is winning in Wisconsin. But still, he is winning in both states. That is the sum of the state of the race right now. But we're going to be talking in a moment with Bob Herbert. We're going to be talking about how the machinations of the election are turning out to be way more partisan than even we expected them to be. That's all ahead. We'll be right back.